Welcome to ABS 2.0 training. These are the areas that we'll be discussing today regarding the ABS 2.0. We'll discuss features, operating specification, installation, reactive service, and field resources. One of the first features is a display unit. It's a dual 7-inch touchscreen user interface. The visual interface has been improved for crew members. As we can see here in the picture, the left screen is intended for our staging page, and our right screen is for our order inputs. Here's our turret assembly. It's a 6-cup dispenser design. The cup dispensers and locations are customizable for different sizes, so you can go one size up, one size down. There is a new finger design as well. They are replaceable without tools, so that means there's no loose hardware above drink area. And these new design of fingers actually handles the bottom loading of cups. The turret assembly was relocated, and one of the main reasons was relocated was just to remove all the critical components from any splash zone area. Next one up is our picker assembly. Now the picker assembly, as far as pressure goes, it needs only a requirement between 52 to 54 psi. This picker assembly also has built-in proximity sensors that alert in which position the picker is in. So there'll be a sensor for the top, for the home, and for the bottom. The design of the gripper arms are articulating, which reduces the gripper pad wear for the future use of the unit. The picker assembly was also relocated for the ABS 2.0, and one of the main reasons why was to remove the critical components from splash zone area as well as the turret. As we see here is our carousel assembly. It was designed for more capacity. There's 11 cup holders in total, which allows us for having the ABS 2.0 to have 6 finished drink staging positions. The cup holders have been redesigned, so underneath there are no more magnets. There is a dovetail feature on our new carousel belt design. The drip tray material is now hot and cold compatible. We have an ultrasonic glass cup sensor, as you can see here. This is actually clear cup compatible. Underneath, we have, as you can see here in this picture, is our index sensor. It's actually more reliable, and it has a built-in illuminated indicator to show you if the index sensor is working as it should be. Here's the ice storage when it comes to the ABS 2.0. We actually increased the ice capacity by 38%. One key thing, though, that stands out here for the ABS 2 is that you will not find a low-level ice sensor on the ABS 2 as it is for the ABS 1.0. Here's the dispensing technology for the ABS 2.0. Starting from the left to the right, we have our ice chute assembly here. It's a Pro Gate style design. Portion of ice is time-based. The ice chute cover has an encapsulated magnet which corresponds with the sensor to alert when that cover is off for mounting. We have our MFV valve nozzle and diffuser technology here, and we have our MFV valves here technology. So we have 3 valve banks. One valve bank is dedicated for water, and the 2 additional valve banks are dedicated for syrup. For a total of 8 brands are being dispensed through the ABS 2.0. As far as any equipment, there's always safety features. So one of the main safety features for the ABS 2 is the following. One is if this turret door is open at any moment, the unit will not produce any drinks in any mode. That means automatic or manual mode. That door needs to be closed at all times. Next one up is if the ice chute cover comes off from mounting, or if the ice bin lid or the manual fill lid door is open, it would also stop the unit from operation. And you will get a generic message here, as we can see here. It says close ice lid or push in the ice chute cover. So let's jump into the operating specifications. So the unit itself will be operating off a 120 volts AC 15 amp dedicated circuit. There should be the turret motor, the carousel, and the agitator motors will all go through the 120 volts AC. There's 3 individual power supplies inside the electrical box. Our first one is our 30 volts DC, and that powers up our MFV valve solenoids. We have a 24 volts DC power supply, and that powers up all of our proximity sensors within the unit. And then we have a 12 volts DC that powers up our UI display. The unit is CO2 or compressed air system compatible. There is an internal regulator that is set between 52 to 54 psi. That pressure is being sent to the picker assembly. There's a secondary internal regulator that's fixed at 35 psi. There's no adjustments to that. And that's what reduces the pressure from the picker assembly to be sent to the ice chute assembly of 35 psi. There's a CO2 sold out sensor before the internal regulator that cuts in at 64 psi and cuts out at 55 psi. As far as water supply goes, we need a boosted water going to the unit with a 80 psi minimum of pressure going into the unit. So next one up, what we're going to do now, I'm going to switch over to my simulator and we'll go through the UI display explanation process. All right, so now you should be seeing if you were in front of an ABS 2.0. Right now, as you can see, we actually have an alarm that's showing up here on our screen. And the alarm here is letting you know that the weekly cleaning is currently needed on our ABS 2.0. At this moment, you could either dismiss it or you can proceed and do the clean and sanitize process of this specific PM. In the background, you will see there's a flashing symbol here. That flashing emblem that we see here, that's only tied for the PM maintenance for the ABS 2.0. If any of the cleaning procedures have not been done, this will be flashing at all time as an indicator that the cleanings need to be done. Will the machine stop from operation during if any of these PM maintenance have not been satisfied? No, the machine will continue to operate as usual. It's just there for an alert for crew members to let them know that the cleanings need to be done at the ABS 2.0. So at this moment, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go in here and pretend I'm a crew member. I'm going to go in and clean and sanitize the unit. The weekly clean is the one that was being asked for, so I'm going to go to clean, and I'm going to go through all the steps here. As you can see, there's steps and pictures that will help them go through all these process out at the store. So crew members should have the flexibility of doing this without no problem. Once you're done, it'll say clean and sanitation completed successfully, and you press OK. All right, as you can see, the flashing emblem has went away. To the right, we have our cup sizes here on top. We have our brands and our portions of ice here. The left, we have our staging page. So as orders are being populated through the POS or if they're being populated here through the unit, they will be appearing here on the left screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and just put in some drinks so we can see that process. As the drinks appear here on my left screen, I just want to give you guys a quick glimpse up here. This right here is just a time and date indicator. Next one up, there's a button here that says manual. That button, if you actually activate that button, it will convert the unit into manual mode. Next one up here is our cup refill. Cup refill is intended for when you have to refill your cups at any time throughout the operation of the unit. If you're running low on a specific size, you press cup refill, and the door will open for you to refill that specific location. Order queue is intended for as orders come in. That's where you'll be able to see the history of the orders that are waiting to be produced through the ABS 2.0. Next one up here, these two yellow notepads, that will take us to a secondary window that will get us access to our dashboard of manager mode and technician mode. All right, so as you can see here, the drinks that I inputted on the unit have been successfully populated. We have our large Coca-Cola that I entered, and then I have a medium Sprite. In between, you can see there's a flush, which is correct. Anytime you go from a dark brand to a light brand, there will be a pre-flush in between. When you go from a light brand to a dark brand, there will not be a pre-flush. And once again, you go from a dark brand to a light brand, there'll be a pre-flush. All right, so going back to this button of manual, if I go in here and press manual, this is what manual mode looks like out in the field. You'll get this screen that says manual mode is active, and this right screen is your, becomes your new friend in a way until you have this unit back up and running through automatic. The buttons are press and hold button to dispense beverages, and you just press the ice button to dispense ice and through manual mode. You have the flexibility of dispensing soda water or water if needed. At any moment you need to go back into automatic, you just press the automatic button here and you're back into automatic mode. So as I was mentioning about cup refill, if you press cup refill, you'll get your cup sizes here in the bottom, and depending on which size you need to refill, you just select that size, the turret will spin, and the turret door solenoid will activate, and the turret door will open. Order queue, as I mentioned to you before, these are where all the orders will be showing. So for example, if I populate in some orders here so you can see for yourself, you will see how they are being populated. So you have the flexibility of deleting one individual, or if you need to delete all, you can just press delete all and all orders will be deleted. You just say yes, and boom, all orders have been deleted. All right, up here in the top corner, there's this fine print. APP stands for application, and the numbers that are after this are intended to be for the software revision out in the field. So if you ever on a customer service call, if they ask you, what is the software revision for the unit, please locate on the left screen, right next to the APP, whatever numbers you have there, that is your software revision. Next one up, we have MCB and MFV. These are also the what we have in our units. We have two main boards. We have our motion control board and our multi-flavor valve board. Each board actually operates a certain firmware. So the MCB firmware has a firmware of 1.23, and the MFV has a firmware of 1.4. So if you're out in the field and they ask you on a customer service call, and they ask you, what is the firmware on the ABS 2.0, you will be giving them the numbers that are after the MCB and the MFV. So remember, MCB stands for your motion control board, and your MFV stands for your multi-flavor valve board. So whatever numbers are after this, that's the numbers you're going to be providing to the customer service representative. All right, so let me press the two yellow notepads here, and this gives us access to our manager and technician mode. So what is available in manager mode? So let's go and find that out. So if you press manager mode, it's going to ask you for a passcode. The passcode for manager is the following. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and what is enabled through the manager mode is what we call system options. So in system options, they have the flexibility of going in through the application preferences. And in here, you are able to toggle the language. You can go from English to Spanish if that's something that they would like to do. And when I'm bringing that up is because out in certain markets, there could be a language barrier where crew members will actually be able to do the cleaning procedures if everything's in Spanish because they can read Spanish. So that managers have the power of converting it into Spanish. Next one up is a visual experience. What we have here is a color theme. So right now, the theme that we're seeing is a light. If we were to put this in dark, what would happen is that you'll have instead of having a white background on our screen, you'll have a dark grayish black background. And what's in the intent for that? Just that the intent for that is to ease the sun glare that comes into the drive-through window. That's all the intent for that. The machine will be able to operate in dark or light mode without no issues. It's just the preference of the store on which mode they want to operate. Next one up is clean and sanitize setup. So the managers have the power here of going in there and setting up the times of what time they want the unit to alert the crew members to perform the PM maintenance. So there's a daily, there's a weekly, there's a monthly, and there's a quarterly cleaning. A daily is every 24 hours, weekly is every 7 days, monthly is every 30 days, and quarterly is every 4 months. Now the quarterly is only intended if there's a pre-chiller underneath. If there's no pre-chiller, the quarterly is not needed. So the managers here have the privilege of going in here, and once again, it's just setting up the times of what time they want the crew members to do their cleanings for the ABS 2.0. And that's as far as it goes to the manager mode. So next one up is our technician mode. But before I go into technician mode, I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint presentation and walk through some things before we jump into technician mode. So I'm gonna go back to our PowerPoint. And we're gonna start with our ABS 2.0 installation. So our power and POS connections. The power and POS connections are on the rear of the unit. Our Ethernet cable is right here. As you can see, these are Ethernet adapter. And this is our power cord inlet for our power cord. Behind the Ethernet adapter, inside the unit, there's a jumper, a Cat5 jumper, that carries the information from this adapter to the UI display. So at an initial boot up of the unit, if there is no POS or system network detected, the screen will show an error of power up saying plug in POS network cable. That is normal. If there's no network being detected through the unit, that error message will appear. Next one up is the plumbing of the unit. As we can see here, this is our air supply connection. So your air supply from the store will be connected in this connection here for our ABS 2.0 units. We have all of our cold plate inlets here, as you can see here in the bottom, and we have these pigtails that are already installed on the ABS 2.0. So all the inlets for the location of these are actually labeled on the other end of the tubing. One key thing though that I want to bring up here is that for the ABS 2.0, there is no Sprite sold out switch. You will not find that anywhere around this area. As far as the layout goes for the inlets, it's the following. It's 5, 4, 6, 8, 3, 7, 2. We have our plain water. Then we have carbonated water 2 and carbonated water 1 here inlets. I want to bring up an important thing here. For inlet number 8, inlet number 8 is designed for our ambient syrups, our non-carb syrups. So previously on our ABS 1.0, these syrups they were routed through our cold plate through our ambient lines. The ABS 2.0 ambient line, you could say, is inlet number 8. As this inlet is not designed as the other ones where it goes into the heart of the cold plate, it goes on the edge of the cold plate. So this specific brand that are being routed through number 8 will not get chilled as the other brands are going into the cold plate themselves. So once again, for all your ambient syrups, non-carbs brands, you're going to connect them through inlet number 8 for ABS 2.0. And during the installation process, it's really important that we always install the U-bend for the multiplex recirculation system for the carbonated water line. So that's really important that gets installed. Here's our valve bank layout. So our first valve bank, as we can see here, is our carbonated water here on the left and our plain water here. For the water circuit, there's a high flow and a low flow. Next, we have our secondary valve bank, and these are for 4 syrups. As we can see here in our schematic, this will be for syrups 1, 2, 7, and 8. And third, finally, we have our additional 4 syrups, and this would be for our syrups 3, 4, 5, and 6. So here's a video showing you the proper procedures of how to open up the turret door. First one up, the proper way of opening up the turret door is through our cup refill process. You press cup refill, you select the size, and as you can see, the door will open, and at this moment, you will proceed with refilling your cups. If for some reason that turret door solenoid is not working electronically, behind the UI display, you find here your turret door solenoid. You can actually pull on this knob, and that knob is intended to override the electronic circuit, so you can open up the turret door if needed, if that solenoid goes bad. Those are the 2 proper procedures of opening up the turret door on the ABS 2.0. As far as the turret removal goes, this video walks us through this process. So first thing is first is you want to open up the turret door, as we just saw that previously. You're going to open it up through the cup refill process. Once the door is open, you want to proceed with removing all the cups from your turret assembly. There is a clip and a pin. So you remove the clip, make sure you sustain the turret assembly from the bottom and pull the pin out. And by doing that, the whole turret assembly comes off for mounting. You want to make sure for safe practice, you put that pin and clip back into the turret assembly. To access our pneumatics, well, after you have removed the turret assembly, there's an access panel that has to be removed to reach the pneumatics. So you remove the access panel by moving the panel upward, and it comes off from the unit. And at this moment, you have access to your CO2 regulator, your picker assembly, your CO2 manifold. And down underneath right here, this little knob that we see here, that's our 35 PSI fixed regulator that reduces the pressure that goes into the ice chute assembly of 35 PSI. How to remove the carousel? You remove the 3 thumb screws. You remove the cover, and then you just remove the carousel upward. And if you need to remove the cup rest at this moment, feel free to remove the cup rest as well. The splash panel removal. How to remove the lower splash panel? So to do that, you have to remove the nozzle and diffuser first, and then you have to proceed with removing the 5 screws that secure this panel to the unit. You have 2 on the left, 1 behind the picker assembly, and 2 on the right. To access the fifth one that's right here, you want to raise the picker so it gives you access to that screw and remove that screw from the unit. Now let's go back into our simulator so we can walk through the unit setup. So I'm going to share our simulator now. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start from the beginning. And if you're a technician, you want to go into unit setup. So how do we get into unit setup? First thing is first is you press on the 2 yellow notepads here. That gives us this secondary window. Now we're going to proceed to technician. And we're going to put our passcode of technician. And that passcode for technician is the following: 9876. Enter. All right. Now it gives us a lot of options as for the technician mode. One of them that we already had seen previously is a system option, which was enabled in manager mode. So in technician mode, what are the most common areas you're going to be using for the ABS 2.0? And those common areas are the following: it's unit setup, software update, diagnostics. Those are your 3 key areas that you'll be operating on the ABS 2.0. So let's start off with unit setup. Once you're in unit setup, you have the options of going through all the setups that need to be programmed on the ABS 2. First one up is map cup types to tube. This is where you go in there, you program on the turret assembly. If you're actually swapping out a cup size for a different size, you do the labor side of actually replacing the cup dispenser. But at the same time, you have to do the programming through the application software. So for example, let's say in location number 5, which is this number will correlate with the position on the turret. The turret assembly actually has these locations also there as they're on the panel. So you could always cross-reference your turret assembly with your screen here so you know which location you're working with. So for example, let's say in location number 5, we went in there and we took off the large and we actually put a medium cup dispenser there. So what you're going to do is you select position number 5, select medium, you select save, yes, and as you can see now, we have now 2 mediums when we originally only had 1. So we actually went in there and you did the programming. So that's the only intent of this menu selection. The only time you have to go in here is if you're actually programming a different size on a different position on the turret assembly itself. So for our own sake, I'm going to default to the original setting, which is large in position number 5, save, yes. So as you can see here, we have 3 large, 1, 2, 3, 1 medium, 1 child size cup, and a small. Map brands, this is where you go in here and you set up your brands. Depending on your market, that's the brand you're going to be setting up. Just remember, how do you correlate this with the inlets of the cold plate? It's the following. You count from starting from the left to the right. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Once again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In position number 8, I told you guys that's intended for the non-carb drinks, like for the ones that we will be routing in our ABS 1.0 through the ambient line. So for example, I have Powerade here, but if it was another one, I'll give you an example of Minute Maid lemonade. You will select that, you say save, And there you go. It transfers over to our right screen. And you have the many different options of brands here to select. So depending on your market, that's what you're going to go in here and program on your ABS 2.0. Next one up is our brand attribute. In our brand attribute, this is where you actually can verify that the pre-flush is enabled on all the light brands. So as you can see, Water has it enabled, Sprite should have it enabled. So all the light brands should have this enabled. Any specific dark brand, like for example, Dr. Pepper, fan of strawberries, we can see here, root beer, the pre-flush should be off, all right? The only time the pre-flush is on is for the light brands, okay? So just wanna make sure if you always wanna verify that it's enabled for the light brands, this is where you go and check, brand attribute editor. Next one up is set date and time. This is where you just go in there, you set up your time and date, really self-explanatory. NP6 server setup. This is where you go in here, you set up your IP address on the unit. Now the IP address is actually store specific. So whatever numbers is that they give you, those are the number that you're going to be putting on the ABS 2.0. There are 2 sets of numbers that are standard on all ABS 2.0 units to the drive-through on any McDonald's store. And those set of numbers are the following. The IP address number will always start with a 10 and finish with an 88. The middle combination of numbers, that will all be unique for each store. So once again, whatever number that they give you, the middle combination of numbers is what you're going to be putting in. 10 and 88 is standard on all ABS 2.0. Next one up here is dispense times and setup. Dispense times and setup, that's where you go in there, you set up your top-offs for your ABS 2.0. So let's say you're having an issue with Dr. Pepper as you want to help with the foaming that's excessive, that's occurring as the drinks are being dispensed. So first thing is first, you want to select that brand you want to adjust. So let's say Dr. Pepper is our problem child. Now we want to select a size, does not matter, select any size. I'm going to select a medium, I'm going to select a regular ice. So once you have a size, the brand that you want to make sure you want to adjust, and a portion of ice selected, the edit button lights up. Now we select edit. And in here, now we have the flexibility of maneuvering our top off delay and top off percentage. So the way that this works is that it's showing in milliseconds. So so the equivalence of milliseconds to seconds is the following. 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. All right. So right now I have a top off delay of 5,000, which is in second terminology, it's 5 seconds. All right. So the way that this works is that top off percentage is whatever you put here, that's the amount of time that it will be dispensed as far as percentage goes, and then it'll stop, and then your delay will kick in, and then it will finish the remainder percentage to be dispensed. So for example, let's say I would bring this down to 4,000, save. So now what I'll do is if I go in here and I dispense a medium Dr. Pepper, what's going to happen is it's going to fill up 75% of my time. Then my delay will kick in of 4,000, which is 4 seconds. Then after this, that delay is satisfied, it will continue with the 25% that's needed to top off my drink. That's how this works. So once again, anytime you're doing any type of adjustments, I just want to make sure that you keep this in your, as you're doing the adjustments, that the more time you add in the delay, that's more time you're adding to the unit to dispense drinks. So you always want to keep the top off delay between 4,000, not exceeding 6,000 milliseconds. That's been kind of the nominal window that we've seen out in the field. If you're exceeding above 6,000 milliseconds, I think there's other areas that you would have to go and look and verify that it's not, that you're not, the reason why you're getting this excessive foaming. So once again, keep this nominal between 4,000 and 6,000 milliseconds. And once you adjust it once, you do not have to go back and adjust it for all the cup sizes and portions of ice. As you can see here for Dr. Pepper, medium regular ice, we have a top off delay of 4,000 and top off percentage of 75%. I go back a screen and I'm going to select chalice size Dr. Pepper no ice, edit. And as you can see, the top off delay remained the same, 4,075. So once you adjusted once for that specific brand that you were working with, those parameters will carry over on all your cup sizes and portions of ice. So you just adjust it once, and then that's all you need to do. The application software will carry those parameters to the other remaining sizes and portions of ice for that brand. Ice dispense calibration. This is where you actually have all your cup sizes. You have your portions of ice here on the right, and you have an up and down arrow, and that's intended for you to either increase or decrease time as to adjust your portion of ice. So for example, start off with child, regular ice. If you need to increase or decrease your portion, let's say for example, we want to bring it down, we bring it down to 65, I do a dispense, and I put my child size cup underneath my ice chute assembly. I get my sample reading. If my sample reading is still low, I'll increase my time. Let's say 70. 70 is the number that it gives us to the correct regular ice portion that we need. At this moment, you press save. Okay. Now, if you're wondering, well, how do I know how much is regular ice, how much is extra ice? Well, all the cup sizes at McDonald's on the side, there's red indicators. Starting from the bottom and going up, your first red indicator there, that's your regular ice. Your secondary indicator there, that's your extra ice, and your very top indicator, that's for your portion level. So that's how that's going to help you through this process. Now, there's only one key thing that you have to be real careful then when you're doing your ice calibration, is that when you're doing your ice calibration, you want to make sure that anytime you toggle between portion adjustments, you always press save in between all your adjustments. If you do not press save in between all your adjustments, your settings will not be saved. I'll give you an example. Let's say regular ice. I brought this up to 75, 75. And as we can see here, I did my dispense, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, that's where I need to be at. Now let me jump into extra ice. But you did not press save. If I go back to regular ice, it defaulted to that number that was there before. So once again, it's really important that when you do your adjustments for your ice calibration, any adjustments you do in between, always press save. Do not leave the save all the way to the end, because if you do that, all your adjustments were not saved. You're gonna have to go back and redo it once again. Beverage dispense calibration. This is where you go in here and you set up your waters, and you set up your calibrations for your syrups as well. There's actually an instructional video that you will be seeing in the training, so we'll refer to that for the training aspect. Water valve and purging. So here in our water valve and purging menu selection, we have the flexibility of purging out carbonated water or plain water. Carbonated water 1 is our high, carbonated water 2 is our low. Same thing for the plain water side. Plain water 1 is high, plain water 2 is low. At this moment, you can individually select individual solenoids, so you can purge out the system. If you want to purge out your high, you select carbonated water 1. If you want to purge out your low, you select carbonated water 2. Same thing for plain water. You select plain water 1, you're purging out nothing but high pressure at this moment, and you plain water 2, at this moment you're purging out your low pressure. If you want to purge out both of them together, you just put both of them together, push to activate, and you'll be purging out your high and low at the same time. You just go back in here and just close off, and you just close them all at the same time as well. Same thing for plain water. You want to purge out your plain water, both high and low together. Awesome, you're doing it at this moment. Once you're done, just press close off, and you have deactivated the solenoids. If we did it for water valve purging, well, we also did it for syrup. In syrup valve purging, you actually have the flexibility also purging out individual syrup brands, or if you want to purge up till 4 brands at once. 1, 2, 3, 4. You will not be able to do more than 4, as you can see here. It does not give you that option. So once again, you can only purge up until 4 brands. And at this moment, you can just go there and close them all at once. And the brands do not have to be in order. You can randomly select 4 brands as you wish, but no more than 4. All right. And that walks us through our unit setup. Now I'm going to go back into our presentation. Now here's a quick video of the IP address setup. So as you can see here, you want to press menu, select technician, press 9876. And this will get us into unit setup. Select NP6 server setup. Enter the IP address provided. 10 and 88, as you can see here, will not change. That's standard in all ABS 2.0. So whatever combination of numbers as they give you, that's the numbers you're going to be changing here in the middle. Press the save icon and press yes in the confirmation. And at this moment, the application will restart for it. It will want to sync with the POS system network. Here's a quick video of the ICE calibration. So as you can see here, you increase or decrease time depending on what you need to adjust your portion of ice. As you can see here, those are the indicators that I mentioned before. Your first indicator there, that's your regular ice, and that's how you adjust your regular ice portions for your cup sizes. Each cup sizes has their own indicator. Here's a quick video of a valve purge. Actually, we had a unit in front of us. So you have our valve controls here, or our valve bank here. And then we have here on top is our high flow control, and the bottom we have our low flow control. This whole valve bank is water. So green is high, blue is low. So this video is actually starting off through the serve valve purging process. So if you select a serve to be purging out, you'll be purging out nothing but syrup through the ABS 2.0. If you jump to the water valve purging, this is where you're going to be purging out nothing but water. You want to start off with purging your high, then proceed with purging out your low, and then the same thing for plain water, purge out your high, and then proceed with your low. And then at the end, you can purge out both of them together since you have individually purged out each one of them individually. So jumping into the beverage dispense calibration, this is where you're going to go in here and set up the total flow for the waters, and obviously setting up the calibration for your syrup. One key thing to note here for the ABS 2.0 is that your carbs and your plain waters are both set to a total volume of 12 ounces. This is different from the ABS 1.0. The ABS 1.0 had it set carb to 13 and plain to 12. For the ABS 2.0, they're both 12 going forward. So to set up our calibrations for water, we're going to proceed with going back into the beverage dispense calibration screen in technician mode through unit setup. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up our highs to 9 ounces. So carbonated water 1, which is our high, will be set to 9 ounces. Which is CW1, as you can see here. And we're going to adjust that using our top flow control, which is green. Remember, green is high. You do a 4-second dispense, and you go and get your reading once again. Once we have achieved the 9 ounces, we're going to proceed with selecting carbonated waters 1 and 2, and now we're going to be adjusting it to the total volume that we need to achieve, which is 12 ounces. So we're going to get our reading to see where we're at, with both high and low activating at the same time. And if we need to adjust this, instead of using our high flow control, we're going to be adjusting using our low flow control, which would be CW2. You get your exercise the valves once again, and then you go proceed with getting your sample reading. And once we have achieved the volume of 12 ounces, we have calibrated the carb side. Now we're going to proceed with the plain water side. And the same process that we did for the carbonated water, we're going to do the same process for the plain water. So we're going to adjust our PW1, which is our high, to 9 ounces. And if you need to do any type of adjustments, the flow control you're going to be using is our PW1, which is the top flow control, which is green, which is high. You get your reading once again to see your sample reading. And once we have achieved the 9 ounces, now we're going to proceed with selecting both our plain waters 1 and 2. And we're going to do a 4-second dispense. And following the same principle that we did for the carbonated water side, we're going to adjust to get to the total volume of 12 by using our low flow control, which in this case would be PW2 for the plain water, which is our blue flow control there, as we can see. You want to verify that you're getting a total of 12, so you get another sample reading. Once we have achieved the total volume of 12, now we're going to go into the unit itself and we're going to update the water volume in the software. So we're going to let the machine know that for every 4 seconds, we are dispensing 12 ounces. So you go in there, enter 1200, you press the green arrow, you press save, and you make sure you press update beverage dispense times. And you want to make sure that plain waters 1 and 2 are selected. You do the same thing for carbonated waters 1 and 2. You select that. You update the volume. Once again, you put 1200, enter, you save, and you want to make sure you press update beverage dispense times to reflect the change. All right, and that we have calibrated our waters. Now we're going to jump to the syrup. You have all your brand selections here. You have the flexibility here of the 4-second dispense. You press that 4-second dispense and it will be dispensing out nothing but syrup. Now using your cup, you're going to dispense it in its corresponding chamber. And you're going to be matching the syrup to the proper levels of water. In this case, as we know, we both calibrated our waters to 12. So syrups for the carbonated syrups and the non-carbonated syrups will have to be matching the total height of 12 ounces of liquid. Adjusting portion levels. So after you calibrated your water, you calibrated your syrup, you have your ice calibration all as well completed. We want to verify our portion levels on the ABS 2.0. And to verify our portion levels, the first step which we want to do is the following. You want to dispense a large soda water, no ice, and dispense a large plain water, no ice. Once you have dispensed those specific drinks, you're going to verify your portions. If your portions are where they need to be as far as portion level, there's no adjustments that you need to do. But if for some reason, if your carb side is lower, or if your carb side is larger, or same thing for plain water, if it's it's less or more, we're going to go back into that same screen we were at where we updated our actual water volume to 12 ounces. Now this number is our new friend. This is the number now that we're going to be using to adjust portion levels. So to increase or lower portion levels, you want to make sure you select carbonated waters 1 and 2 or plain waters 1 and 2, depending on which one you will be adjusting. And you will be, you'll lower the number to increase and update the number to reflect that change. So for example, if you go from a 12 to an 11, you're going to get more product into your drink, more portion. If you go from a 12 to a 13, if you raise the number, you're going to get lower portion into your drink. All right. Anytime you're changing this number that we see here, if you go from a 12 to a 13 or a 12 to an 11, you want to make sure you always select update beverage dispense time to reflect the overall change. If you do not press this, it will not reflect the change that you're putting it in here. So once again, if you need to address your portion levels, if you need to adjust as far as to increase the level, you're going to lower the number. So you're going to go from a 12 to an 11. If you need to lower your portion, you're going to go from a 12 to a 13, and that will lower your portion. And there's no right and wrong answers. You can go whatever number you will like to. You can go from you go by 12.50, 13. You know, you tune it as to where it needs to be as far as the portion level goes. Once you have everything set up on the unit, you want to do a backup of the unit settings. So for that, you want to go into technician mode, and then what we're going to do is, instead of going into unit setup, we go into diagnostics. And then we're going to proceed with saving log files to a USB. There is a blank USB that is supplied within the installation kit of the ABS 2.0. So you want to make sure that that USB is with the unit at all times. So here's a quick video of this process. So once again, you want to grab a USB, enter the USB in any of the USB ports on the UI display, select our page button, put in our technician passcode, proceed to diagnostics, select save log files to USB. Once you have a USB in there, it will recognize that there's a USB in there. You want to make sure that the delete log files is checked. If it's checked off already automatically, there's no need to recheck it off. Just leave it as is, and just select save log files to USB stick. This shouldn't take no longer than 10 seconds, depending on when was the last time that the data was backed up. It could probably take a couple more seconds if it hasn't done that for a fairly long time, but it shouldn't take no longer than 1 minute. I tell you that for a fact. Next one up, we're going to go into our reactive field service. So to remove the diffuser and seal, as you can see here, you want to turn the nozzle to the left, and then you pull the diffuser straight down. Once you have the diffuser and seal removed, you want to inspect the gasket for any cracks or tears. You always also want to note the orientation of this gasket. There's a flat side to this gasket, and then there's a protruding side to this gasket, all right? The flat side is what's going to go on top of the diffuser, and the protruding is what goes into the nozzle assembly. Here's actually a video of this process of how to remove it. You remove the nozzle, as you can see here, pull down the diffuser and seal. And this is where you want to check the seal that is seated properly. Remember, the flat side goes on top of the diffuser itself, and the protruding is what goes into the nozzle assembly, as we can see here. It slides back in there. Just push it in and just make sure you secure it back with the nozzle. Cup dispenser removal. If you had to replace a cup dispenser out in the field, what you're going to do is you're going to remove the lock ring. Once you remove the lock ring, it exposes this screw right here. This screw is actually what secures this cup dispenser to the turret assembly. Here's a quick video of this process. So first thing is first, you want to open up the cup, you want to open up the turret door, and you do that by going through the cup refill process. You want to twist off the lock ring. Once you have the lock ring off, you're going to proceed with removing the cups. And then you're going to remove the screw off the turret assembly by using a screwdriver. Once you remove the screw, the cup dispenser will come loose. And at this moment, you remove the screw from the assembly, and then you just pull gently the cup dispenser off the assembly as well. Just slides off, up and off. And just by that, you have removed the cup dispenser from the turret assembly. Finger replacement. To replace the fingers out in the field, what you want to do is you want to remove the lock ring off the cup dispenser. Once you have this lock ring off, it exposes the fingers. And at this moment, as I told you guys before, you don't need no tools. You just push the fingers off the cup dispenser. And to add the fingers back and replacing with new ones, just put it in an angle, 45-degree angle, and just slide it back into the cup dispenser. All the fingers are standard on all the cup sizes, so there's no need to order a specific finger for a specific size. They're all standard on the ABS 2.0. You want to make sure you put back the lock ring back in place, as this lock ring is what keeps these fingers secured onto the cup dispenser assembly. Gripper pads. You want to replace gripper pads out in the field when they are worn out or you're starting to see excessive cup slides. When installing the new pads, just align the inner protrusions with the holes in the sheet metal and just slide, and they will slide onto the gripper arm itself. Software update. So to do software updates at this moment, one key thing that I want you guys to know is that we are asking our service agents at this moment to be able to go to a specific website that Cornelius provides. And in that website, you're going to be downloading our software. So for you guys to know where to access the software link, you can always refer to the Coca-ColaParts.com website, as they will always have the ABS 2.0 software revision website link for you guys to access and go to that website to download the software for the ABS 2.0. So to get to this, you want to go into technician mode, and you already know the passcode for technician mode is 9876. And then we're going to proceed is going to go to software update, and you're going to insert the USB with the software that was downloaded from the website, and you're going to update the software to the unit itself. So here's a quick video of the download process. So this is the website that we have. It's box.com. Depending on the software revision you're going to be downloading, the number will be right here. And then you have the button here that says download. You click on that download and your download will proceed. The software will be downloaded onto your PC laptop as a zip folder. Okay. As a file is downloaded, you do not want to download the file just as it was downloaded. You want to transfer the zip. You want to transfer the files inside the zip folder. Okay. So once again, you download the software from the website. It's going to download as a zip folder. You open up the zip folder and you copy the items inside the zip folder onto the root drive of the USB. So you select both items. These are the items that are inside the zip folder from the website, that the software that was just downloaded. You go to your USB drive and you paste those files there. You're going to have a status indicator on your screen where it says it's transferring a certain amount of files. Once that completion of files transferred is completed, you're going to proceed and bring that USB with you, and we're going to update the unit out in the field. So you bring the USB with you with the software. We're going to go to our technician mode, put in our passcode 9876. We're going to go to software update. And at this moment, there's no USB detected. Once you put the USB in there, the unit will detect the USB. If the software was transferred correctly, the update from software from USB will lit up. If that does not lit up on you, the main reason is because you transferred the zip folder just as it was downloaded from the website onto the USB. It's really important that you open up that zip folder and you only copy what's inside that zip folder, because the unit does not read files inside a zip folder. So once again, open up the zip folder, transfer those files to the USB. Then once those successfully have been transferred, you bring that USB with you and you upload the software onto the unit out in the field. This is a window you're going to be getting while it's going through the software update. Once it's completed, the application will once again restart on its own, and you'll go back to its main UI display of your staging page to the left and your order selections on the right. UI display replacement. So first step is the removal. You want to power off the unit. You want to open up the display, as you can see here. Then you're going to remove all the connectors from the rear end of the display unit. You want to remove the door latch. Once you have all that removed, you want to lift the display unit straight up off the side hinges here. To install the new one, you align the UI display with the side hinges and you lower it down. Reconnect all your harness connections to your UI display. Reinstall the door latch, because the new UI display will not have this door latch here. You want to reinstall this from the one you are removing. Close the display and power up your unit. And just as you can see here, there's a key note here that anytime you go through a UI display replacement, the unit will need to be reprogrammed. What do I mean by that? The brand mapping, ICE calibration, fill levels, IP address, and top-ups will need to be reprogrammed once again, because this display actually is what has all your settings programmed there. So once again, if you replace a UI display, make sure that when you go in there, you are replacing this UI display, you go back in and reprogram everything through the unit setup. Picker replacement. So this is first video here we're going to see here is for the process of the removal. First, what you want to do is you want to shut off the pressure going to the unit inside. There's this internal shut-off valve there, as you can see. You want to proceed with removing the 4 screws from the picker assembly. Okay, once we get to the point where we have all the 4 screws removed, we're going to proceed to our harness bundle. These are the connections that come off the picker assembly. So we want to cut this cable tie so we can disconnect the picker harness connections. And then to our CO2 manifold, as we see here, these tubings also come off the picker assembly as well. So you want to disconnect these connections as well off the CO2 manifold. You pull on those tubings. These are John Guest fittings. So you push down on the fitting and you just pull the tubing upward. Then we're going to proceed with disconnecting our harness connections. And then we're going to remove all of the tubings from the side access hole there. So the rear side access hole, this is for the tubing. That's where you're going to be routing all your tubings off the picker. And then the front side access hole, that's for our harness. That's where we're going to be routing our harness connections from the picker to the front. Once we have the picker removed, we're going to proceed with the installation of your new one. So you want to secure this picker back onto the frame base. As you can see, there's 2 pins there. Those 2 pins will line up with the picker base here. You're going to have to swivel it around there until you feel it's secure, that it falls in place. All right, awesome. Once it's in place, we're going to route all of our tubing connections. So once again, all of our tubing connections go through the rear side access hole, as you can see here. That's where you're going to be routing your tubings off the picker. All right. Now we're going to proceed with reconnecting all of our tubing connections back into our CO2 manifold. So we connected the rear 2 ones. Now we're going to connect the remaining 3. Picker bottom goes in that location. Picker top goes right next to it. And then picker mid will go in front of picker top. All right, now we're going to proceed with routing our harness connection from our picker assembly, and that goes to the front side access hole. You want to untangle the harness. And as you can see, the harness connections from the picker have labels on them. You want to make sure that when you're connecting them to this same nomenclature on both ends. So if you're connecting picker top on one end, the other end should say picker top as well. You want to make sure both of them have the same description on both ends. So for example, we're starting here with picker top. We're going to find picker top off this harness connection and just connect them. And you're going to do that with all the remaining connections as well. Make sure you're selecting, for example, picker mid. You're selecting picker mid on your other end. Once you have all your harness connections, you want to rebundle up your harness, just as we found it when we first started doing our rework. All right, now we're going to proceed with final step of securing the picker back to the frame base by using the 4 screws that we originally had removed. Once we have the 4 screws fully secured back onto the frame base that secures the picker to the unit itself, we're going to proceed with open up our CO2 shutoff valve to allow pressure back to our picker assembly. Next one up is removing the valve. So first thing is first is you want to locate the proper spindle for the you're going to be shutting off your pressure to. So just for awareness, each spindle will shut off flow to 2 brand MFE solenoids. So these are your shutoffs, as you can see here. These spindles are your shutoffs. So you push these down, and that shuts off your pressure from your back block to the unit, or to the valve, I should say. Next one up here is our, to remove the valve body from the back block. What you're going to do is you're going to push in between the spindles into what we call this a dovetail. Once you push this down, that releases the valve body from the back block, and then you proceed with, unplugging all your MFE solenoids at this moment. You want to make sure that before you proceed with removing this valve, you want to validate that there's no pressure by using our serial valve purge option in unit setup. So here's a quick video. So those are our shutoffs right there. As you can see, you want to push those down to shut off your pressure. You want to depressurize your system. So for example, this circuit here is 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to go back into our technician. Unit setup, serve valve purging, and we're going to depressurize 3, 4, 5, and 6. And at this moment, you have depressurized the solenoids. If for some reason there's still pressure coming out with these shutoffs off, I will not proceed to take off that valve until you shut off your main source. Now you're going to push in the dovetail. You push that down, and that disengages the valve from the back block. To put the back block, or to put the valve back onto the back block, you secure it straight flush to the back of the unit. Push in your dovetail, then open up your pressure once again. Servicing the MFE valve. So the front solenoid is what correlates with the top flow control, and the rear solenoid is what correlates with the bottom flow control. So here's a quick video of the breakdown of the MFE valve. So first thing is first is you want to remove the clip. You want to remove the module off the valve cradle. Just pull it out in an angle. You want to make sure those O-rings are always with the valve module. Do not lose those O-rings. And to replace the solenoid, all you're going to be doing is just twisting counterclockwise, and that disengages the solenoid off the valve module. Inside their solenoid, you'll have your spring, you have your plunger, and then on top of your plunger, you'll have your tip. And as you can see, this video actually we go all the way to the point where we're actually replacing the tip for you guys for service awareness. This tip is available as an individual component. You do not have to order a whole valve if it's your tip that you just need to replace. You go back in there and secure the tip back onto our plunger. And we want to put all our components back into our solenoid body. Put the spring into our plunger. Slide our plunger and spring into the solenoid. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn clockwise to secure it back onto the valve module body. Once to put that valve module body back into the valve cradle, you want to put it on an angle, 45-degree angle, so you make sure this flat side of the valve module actually goes in first. Then you're going to rock the module back into these ports here, as you can see here. And you want to make sure that these O-rings are lubricated, as you don't want to have these O-rings be pinched or damaged as you're pushing it back into the ports. To secure this valve module back onto the valve cradle, you want to make sure that you reinsert the clip to keep it secured onto the valve cradle. To remove the lid holder, you want to remove the 4 screws. There's two here on the rear and two on the left. And you just slide it out. Removing the ice chute. If you had to remove the ice chute out in the field, what you're going to be doing is you want to remove the lid holder and you want to remove the insert that's in front of the ice chute assembly. So this insert is secured by the two screws that you see here, and obviously the two screws that you need to remove off the lid holder. Once you have the lid holder and the insert removed, it gives you access to the lock nuts. You have two on the left and two on the right. You proceed with pulling out the assembly once you have the lock nuts removed, and you're going to disconnect the ice chute sensor from the assembly. Just make note that when you're detaching the tubings off the air cylinder, the pink tubing is what connects to the front, and the clear is what connects to the rear fitting of the air cylinder. So once again, you remove the insert, lid holder. Once you have those removed, you're going to proceed with removing your lock nuts. Once they are removed, you're going to proceed with disconnecting our ice chute cover sensor, as you can see here. And then you're going to remove the pneumatics from the air cylinder. So once again, the pink is the one that goes to the front, and the clear is what goes to the back. So you disconnect those tubings. When you're doing this process, you want to make sure that you have your CO2 shut off as well internally off in the off position. So you want to shut off the pressure to the ice chute assembly. Cup holder replacement. To replace a cup holder off the carousel assembly, on the underside of the assembly, you'll have to remove the two screws and the brackets, and then you're just going to slide the cup holder off the belt. So here's a quick video of this. So you want to flip the carousel assembly to identify the cup holder that you want to be replacing. Note the orientation of the brackets. As you can see, all the brackets are the same on all the cup holders, and that's how they should be put back after you remove. So you remove the two screws from the bracket. Once you have the two screws removed, you're going to remove the bracket as a whole off the assembly. And then we're going to slide the cup holder off the belt. And just by that, you have removed the cup holder off the carousel assembly. If you had to replace the carousel motor out in the field, what you want to do is you want to turn off the power to the unit. You want to detach the power harness and ground wire. And then you're going to remove the screws that secure this motor to the drip tray from underneath. Once you have the motor removed, it all comes down as one assembly. And at this moment, you would also want to inspect the coupling and the super seal for any damages as well. To replace the turret motor, that's going to be done from the top. So first step, what you want to do is you want to remove the top cover by removing the 3 screws from the top. And then from the front, you want to remove the front cover by pushing in on the left and right side clips and pulling the cover outward. Once you have the top cover removed, you want to start from the top by removing the 4 1/4-inch hex screws under the flanges, as you can see here. And then from the front, you want to loosen the top Allen bolts off the motor coupling. Once you do that, you're going to go once again from the top, you're going to pull this motor assembly straight upward. Once you attach the new motor, you're going to want to use the same mounting bracket, slide it into the new motor Position it back in place and resecure it by securing the 4 1/4-inch hex screws on the left, on the right, and securing your coupling to your turret motor shaft. To replace your encoder board, you want to disconnect the harness that goes to your board, and then you want to remove the encoder board, as you can see here, these 2 screws. Up in our upper UI enclosure box, that's what we call it, behind the UI display, we have our MFV board, we have our turret door solenoid, we have our I-spin lid switch, and our serial number label. This is our electrical box. So this is underneath the unit, same position as it was for the ABS 1.0. What we have here, we have this top power supply here is our 30 volts DC power supply. Down here, we have our 12 volts DC power supply. This is our 24 volts DC power supply here next to the 12 volts. We have our circuit breakers here that tie into our DC voltage power supply circuits. So the one on top is 30 volts, 24 volts, and 12 volts DC. We have our capacitors as well inside the electrical box. This big one right here, that's our agitator. Over here, the one on the left is our turret motor capacitor, and the one on the right is our carousel motor capacitor. This board that you see here, that's our motion control board for the unit. Here's our wiring diagram. This wiring diagram will be located behind the e-box cover. So when you take off the cover, you'll have access to this diagram. This diagram has all the Cornelius OEM numbers. So anytime you need a cross-reference on what you need to order, you can always just put this Cornelius part number into the Coca-Cola Parts website, and the website will do the transition of into the Coke part number for you to order. So when it comes to field resources for you guys out there, what do you guys have? Well, you always want to defer to your Coca-ColaParts.com website. There's an ABS 2.0 section. Within that section, you'll find service guides, and you'll find videos of the ABS 2.0. Also, we have a Cornelius YouTube channel. Within this YouTube channel, which is called Cornelius McDonald's, you can look it up in YouTube. And in this channel, you'll be able to see all of our videos that we have available as well. So you can always refer to the Cornelius McDonald's YouTube channel for for the most recent database of videos available for the field agents for you to reference. And with that, I want to thank everyone for watching this wonderful ABS 2.0 training video, and I hope you liked it. And once again, thank you.